September is packed full of interesting astrology transits. I'm super excited to talk about it with you guys. I am going to be going over horoscopes this video for each rising sign and also each sun sign. So stay tuned. And before I do get into it, my name is Sydney. This is my YouTube channel where I talk about all things astrology related. I do have my website in the link in the description for those of you who would like to book an astrology reading. I offer lots of different types. I also have an email list going, so don't forget to sign up for that so you don't miss out on exclusive promotions, discounts, and astrological tidbits. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and of course, leave me a comment below the video if you have anything you would like to add to the astrology discussion. Before I get into the actual horoscopes, let me kind of break down what's actually going to take place this month. So on September 1st, Saturn retrogrades back into Pisces. Now keep in mind, Saturn has been retrograde for the past several weeks, but September 1st marks a really important point in this Saturn retrograde cycle because it's returning to the sign of Pisces. So think back to what you were doing on March 7th of 2023, because that is when Saturn originally made its grand entrance into the sign of Pisces. So from then to now, think about what you were kind of doing back then, because we're gonna kind of undergo some type of repeat or revisit when it comes to March 2023. Think of September 1st as kicking off the final chapter, so to speak. It's kind of like the curtain call. I don't know if any of you have ever been to a musical or a theater show, but they always do in the second act what's called a reprise, which is essentially where they take the song that was usually in the opening, the opening ensemble number. They take that and they remix it a little bit. So that's kind of what this is. It's like a remix of what was going on when Saturn first entered Pisces back in March of 2023. So depending on what you were doing back then, this time frame can give you an opportunity to kind of reassess or revisit some of those circumstances or just some of, whatever it was you were going through during that time. This can also note kind of revisiting certain psychological beliefs that you were kind of combing through during that period. It's also a really great time to kind of look back and really enjoy and honor just how far you've come. Don't let the time from then to now be a wash. Don't let it go to waste. Use Saturn's retrograde back into Pisces as an opportunity to kind of reassess your goals. Think really deeply about how far you've come. Think about what habits you want to get rid of. Because once February 13th comes around, which is when Saturn's going to re-enter Aries, that time frame is essentially going to make it so you can no longer cling to the past. Even if you want to, you have to kind of from that point just move forward into the future. So use these last few months to get your ducks in a row. This is the time where you might kind of give into nostalgia. There is kind of this relapse energy, so you do have to be really mindful and cautious. Maintain your faith. Again, don't let these last few years be all for nothing. On September 2nd, Mercury is going to enter Virgo. Mercury entering Virgo is going to bring forth a lot of enhanced problem solving skills and abilities. This is a great time to plan, to organize, to declutter your life, whether it be a material decluttering, kind of clearing out your attic, your basement, getting rid of stuff you've been hoarding, donating clothes that have been sitting in your closet that you haven't worn for years. Of course, that's definitely applicable, but it's also a little more, in some cases, psychological. So this is a really good time to address certain beliefs that you're carrying with you, especially again, because now that Saturn is moving back into Pisces, we are kind of having this opposition between Mercury, Virgo, Saturn, Pisces. This is a great time to just get really clear in your mind. Declutter your mental space, essentially, making room for new ideas, new beliefs, and new social interactions as well. You might find that during the month of September, you're a little more motivated to get stuff done. This is a great time to apply for a new job. It's a really great time to get your finances organized, especially in preparation for Mars moving into Scorpio, which we'll talk about. This is just a really good time to get your ducks in a row. And, I will say, you do kind of want to manage stress. It's very easy when Mercury moves into Virgo for stress to heighten, anxiety to heighten. So you might have to try a little bit hard to get necessary rest, take a break, take a pause. There can kind of be this sense of urgency with Mercury in Virgo where it's oh my gosh, I have to get all of this stuff done. Just know you have time. It's not a rush. It's not about who gets there the fastest. You just want to make sure that, you're taking your time and you're making sure that what you are doing, you're doing it well. You're doing it with skill. You're doing it with patience. You don't want to rush. You know what I mean? You don't want to be sloppy. You want to just take your time. September 6th is a huge date. Mark it on your calendars, okay? Uranus is going to begin its retrograde period. Now, it is going to be starting off in the sign of Gemini, okay? It will eventually retrograde back into Taurus, completing like a 7-year cycle. I'm going to make a separate video about the Uranus retrograde. I'm going to try to keep it brief just for this video because I do have a lot of other stuff to go over. But Uranus retrograde, it's going to start again in Gemini. It's going to stir up a lot of social interesting circumstances, I guess. So on one hand, this could note people from the past coming back, okay? This can also note maybe people that you know of, but you haven't really had the opportunity to meet just yet, kind of like two ships passing in the night. This Uranus retrograde can allow for some type of like divine meeting point where you finally get to meet someone you've been wanting to meet, or you finally get to make some type of like social connection. It could be a professional connection that you've been hoping for. You know, kind of like what I was saying with Mercury moving into Virgo, really good time to apply for new jobs, really good time to kind of push yourself out there in like the professional social sphere. So if you have certain objectives or goals in mind when it comes to meeting new people, professionally, this is a really good time to do so. Now, Uranus retrograding in the sign of Gemini can make technology go a little bit wonky. It can make, travel a little bit wonky at times. So you kind of want to treat it a little bit similar to a Mercury retrograde. I hate to say it. So make sure your car, has an oil change, your tires are filled with air. Make sure your files on your computer are backed up. If you need to get a new phone or you need to get a new computer, I would do it now. Like I would do it sooner rather than later. Get a warranty. Like you kind of get what I'm saying. Make sure if you're signing contracts, you have someone look it over. You just want to keep your ducks in a row, especially with Mercury being in Virgo around this time. It's good to just cover all your bases, okay? Now, when Uranus does eventually retrograde back into Taurus, and I'm just going to write this on the screen because I'm kind of blanking right now, but when Uranus does move back into Taurus, that can create some financial ups and downs. So on one hand, this could note a financial return, especially depending on where Uranus is transiting for you. So for example, a tax return or some type of like windfall. It could be an inheritance. It could just be that you are owed something financially that finally makes its way back to you. Sometimes this can note unexpected debts. I hate to say it. Now I will say there's kind of like a blessing in disguise there where if debts do become a theme for you, sometimes it's a matter of finally having enough money to pay off those debts. So it's not always about an unexpected purchase that arises, although sometimes it can be, but sometimes it's just a matter of, now you finally have some resources to get ahead in life. Does that make sense? Like sometimes that can be how this Uranus retrograde Taurus energy can manifest, okay? Now, Taurus has a lot to do with tradition. Uranus retrograde, especially because this is the last time in a very long time Uranus is going to be in Taurus. We're ending again like a 7-year cycle. When Uranus retrogrades back into Taurus, we might see some type of fall, okay? Like some type of fall in society. Now, I live in America, so I can really only speak on American politics, but this could note, something that might have transpired 7 years ago, finally coming to a close. Like we're kind of closing the chapter on a certain tradition that is kind of persisting, or just, there might be like a vicious cycle going on that this Uranus retrograde Taurus allows for some type of fall or dismantling, especially because, Pluto is in Aquarius. So naturally things are just a little all over the place. But I do think Uranus retrograde through Taurus will create kind of a moment where the other shoe drops, or, the bottom falls out. Is that what I'm looking for? Like the bottom gives out and everything kind of falls through. Like that can kind of happen here. On September 7th, we are having a full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Pisces. Of course, it's always Pisces. This is a really intense full moon. I'm sure you hear that a lot, but this is like double intense because it is a lunar eclipse, and Pisces is naturally very, very connected to the other side. It's very spiritual. So this September 7th can bring new revelations or some type of spiritual enlightenment and clarity and closure when it comes to some type of like emotionally very stimulating event or circumstance in your life, depending on where this full moon is taking place for you. It could be a relationship that finally, maybe you come to terms with certain circumstances in the relationship and you use that to reach a resolve with your partner, or you use it to kind of say goodbye if that's what needs to be done. This could note kind of reaching a breaking point in your work life. Maybe you find that your work is not in alignment with your personal sense of purpose, so you seek out, new opportunities. But Pisces does rule over endings, okay? So there is kind of a need here to take a look at your life and think about what's there that doesn't need to be there anymore. And this can include certain lifestyle things, like if the full moon's occurring in your 6th house, for example, maybe cutting out a habit, changing your routine a little bit. So, when September 7th comes around, don't be shocked if you're feeling a little bit drained. Don't be shocked if you're also kind of buzzing, like with enlightenment or some type of clarity when it comes to what you want to do moving forward. So it's not all doom and gloom. At the end of the day, I think this lunar eclipse will bring forth a lot of necessary clarity for a lot of people. It can also help you get really clear in your actual desires, especially deep-seated desires that maybe you're just, sometimes it's hard to know what we actually need in life because we're so preoccupied with what we want. We're thinking so deeply about what we want that we sometimes overlook what we actually need. Okay. So September 7th can kind of bring around this sort of like epiphany moment or this aha light bulb moment where you actually realize the things that you've been focused on or the things that you've been thinking you want maybe aren't the best for you. Maybe it has nothing to do with you. Maybe you're looking in the wrong direction. So you can kind of be rerouted in terms of like your desires and the things that you need in life. On September 18th, Mercury enters Libra. Yay! So I actually kind of like Mercury in Libra. This is a great time for kiss and makeup. Like if you've had some strain in your relationship, whether it be a romantic relationship or even a friendship or a professional relationship, maybe with family members, Mercury moving into Libra gives you some time, energy, and room to reach a resolve, okay? Especially because Mars will still be in Libra around this time. It's going to move a few days later, but it's still going to be in Libra. This can kind of allow for a full circle moment or finally reaching a compromise, finally coming to a joint decision. Now, look, whatever that decision might be, that's going to depend on your circumstances, but you can trust that by this point in time, once Mercury does move into Libra, you're going to have more clarity and understanding about what's going on in your relationship. Okay. Whether it is you both decide like, things aren't working out, or you decide, okay, we can overcome this. We can move through this. So, having your relationships undergo a kind of a point of like strength, courage, that is definitely something that can happen for a lot of people out there. Okay. Now, Mercury in Libra, I will say you do want to be mindful because people can come back from the past, especially now that by that time Uranus will be in its like first 2 weeks of retrograde in Gemini. So naturally, people are going to come back. So you do want to be mindful that kiss and makeup energy, it's really going to be up to you if that's the best thing to do. Okay. Sometimes people do need to just kind of stay in the past. Sometimes it's best to let people go. Again, this is really going to depend on your circumstances. But at the very least, if you are caught in relationship turmoil, you can trust that by the second half of September, you will reach some type of resolve. Okay. I also love Mercury in Libra because it does create a desire to connect and to socialize. So you might find that you're invited to more parties. You might find that you have reasons to dress up and get ready for something exciting. There can definitely be more opportunity to socialize and connect with others, which I love. September 19th, Venus enters Virgo. I love this one too. Venus in Virgo is interesting because it does create a desire to please. It does create a desire to service others. Okay. So this coupled with Mercury in Libra kind of creates like the perfect recipe for making up, kiss and makeup. It creates a really good atmosphere for like wanting to reach a resolve, which is what I really love about this combination of energy. There is a genuine desire here for peace. There's a genuine desire to problem solve, to fix, to correct, to restore. Okay. Now I will say Venus in Virgo, sometimes it can struggle a little bit because Virgo does have such a desire to please, and Mercury being in Libra can be a little passive at times. So you might have to be more firm in your boundaries, especially if you are in a relationship or a situation where it feels very one-sided or there's no reciprocation. Okay. Venus moving into Virgo can give you that necessary push, that necessary common sense, you know what I mean? To know, okay, this isn't working. I got to move on. Now, aside from romance, Venus in Virgo can really help you get some things in order. It's also really great for tending to your health, tending also not just to your health, but kind of like to your appearance. So you might feel inspired to go get your hair done, to get your nails done. You might feel inspired to maybe, for some of you at least, think about some cosmetic procedures or little things that you can do to better like service yourself and what you look like to increase your confidence. So there is a desire with Venus in Virgo, again, especially coupled with that Mercury in Libra, to tend to what you look like. Okay. So nurturing your confidence, nurturing your self-esteem, whatever that might mean for you and however you get there can definitely take priority. And this kind of falls in line too with that desire to resolve certain, relationship conflicts in your life. If you're in a relationship with someone who has really hurt your self-esteem, leaving that relationship is all part of it. It's all part of nurturing your confidence, nurturing your sense of self-worth. I will say Venus in Virgo can be very creative as well, which I love. So you might be hit with some creative inspiration, some type of spark. You can return to an old project that you started a while ago. This is another great transit period for applying for jobs. If you are looking for a job or you're ready to make a leap to a new profession, Venus in Virgo, I truly cannot think of like a better energy for seeking out new professional opportunities. Again, in alignment with Libra Mercury, which does have a lot to do with connection, collaboration, cooperation, compromise, negotiation. So that's the other thing too, is like if you've been thinking about negotiating for a higher salary or a promotion or a raise of some sort, this is a good time to do it. Now, on September 21st, just a few days after Venus enters Virgo, we are going to have a new moon in Virgo. It is going to be a partial solar eclipse. So it's not, it's not like a whole solar eclipse. It's partial, but it's still very powerful and it's still very important. So new moon in Virgo on September 21st, if in case I didn't already say that, this is going to be a great time to connect to self. I will say you might be feeling a little bit like, I don't want to say lost that day, but sometimes new moon in Virgo can bring kind of this like solemn feeling almost, or this feeling of like lethargy. There can, in a lot of cases, be a need for rest and restoration. There's kind of this like spiritual rejuvenation energy that can take over. So don't be shocked if September 21st comes around and you're a little tired, or maybe, you've been in hot demand, like a lot of people have been relying on you, have been needing you. I would say this is a great time to like go get a massage, go to the salon. This kind of aligns with what I was saying a little bit ago about how, this Venus Libra energy can really inspire you to just tend to you, tend to your appearance, tend to your body, tend to your spiritual core. So this new moon in Virgo, this partial solar eclipse, it does give you an opportunity to kind of come back to self, come back home. There is this need to kind of burrow into yourself and really, really prioritize your needs, meeting your needs, taking a step back from trying to people please. This is a good time like to spend the day tidying or cleaning up. It's a really good time to like go treat yourself, get yourself a little gift, go to the bakery, start your day with a nice latte and a little croissant. Like it's a really good time to also appreciate like the little things, with new moon in Virgo, in this partial solar eclipse. You really just want to express gratitude. Like if you do anything that day, just express gratitude. Just enjoy the little things. Go for a walk. It's those little tiny minute things that make up our entire life, that make up the bigger picture. Most days are not going to be these grand, flamboyant adventures. So it's so important that we pay respect and we honor the little days, the monotonous, minute, sometimes tiring days, because those are the days that for the most part make up what all of this is, right? So we don't want to neglect those days. So that might be one of those days, but it's okay. I will say new moon in Virgo for a lot of people can bring new professional opportunities. So if you've been applying for a job, you might hear back. You know what I mean? There can be like a call and response energy to September 21st that allows you to hear word on something really important, really significant. So, don't be surprised if you get an interesting phone call or an email. There can definitely be some important words being exchanged that day. September 22nd is a big one. So we have two exciting transitions happening this day. Mars is entering Scorpio and Sun is entering Libra. So this is very interesting day, September 22nd. So Mars entering Scorpio is very interesting. Mars in Scorpio, it's powerful, it's demanding, it's a little overwhelming at times. So I will say during its whole trajectory in Scorpio, you want to always make sure you're thinking before you're acting. Okay. Scorpio shares a lot of similarities with Aries. And I will say, whereas Aries is like super impulsive, Scorpio in an unfavorable sense can embody some of that. Scorpio Mars, when it's not in its highest power, can be very impulsive, similar to Aries. Okay. You want to make sure you're thinking before you're acting. You want to be calculating. You want to be cautious. You don't want to be suspicious. Okay. You don't want to be suspicious, but you do want to be kind of methodical in your approach. So during the trajectory, and I'll write the full dates on here on the screen, just so you know what time frame you have to work with this transit. You just kind of want to like sometimes take a step back and just watch. You don't always have to be front and center. You don't always have to be reacting intensely to everything happening around you. So use this time instead to be mindful, to watch, to observe, and if you can, and if it's possible, trying to connect intimately with your loved ones. That is something really fabulous about Scorpio Mars. There's a lot of emotional depth to this placement, or, this transit, I should say. And there is an increased desire to connect. Sometimes there can be even a yearning. There's a strong desire to have your needs met. There's a strong desire to like feel secure and stable and safe. So sometimes you need to kind of ask yourself, if you find yourself getting really hot, or, you find yourself getting a little worked up, something's agitating you. Sometimes you need to kind of stop and ask yourself long term, how do I react to the situation in a way that brings me security, comfort, and safety, as opposed to more anxiety or more drama? Like sometimes we want to react immediately and quickly and fiercely because we're trying to protect ourselves, but that is not always the most appropriate or healthy way to be. So it's super important for Scorpio Mars energy that you take a step back and you really think and you really ask yourself, how can I act in a way that like honors who I am in this moment and preserves my safety, but also like makes sure that safety is being sustained long term. Does that make any sense at all? So just be mindful with Scorpio Mars energy. I will say this is a great time to like invest in your creative hobbies, your skills. This is a great time to nurture your skills. For a lot of people, this brings like optimal manifestation energy. It's a great time to kind of like keep to yourself and kind of scurry to a little corner and like work on what you have. And when this transit's over, you come out and you publicize everything you just worked on. Like this is a time to kind of tinker with your toys. You know what I'm saying? Like this is a time to kind of keep a little to yourself, be around the people who you love and who you have an intimate connection with, but you want to kind of like work almost in private. You know what I mean? You want to work on yourself and just mind your P's and Q's. Okay. And not everyone needs to know what's going on in your life. That's another thing. Now, on September 22nd, Sun is also entering Libra. Woo! Happy birthday to all my Libra babies out there. And we'll extend the happy birthday to Libra risings and to Libra moons too. There's enough room for everybody. So I love Libra Sun. I love the energy. It's a very interesting, complex, dynamic sign. I think it does get undermined a lot. It's one of those signs that I think there's a kind of superficial energy that's often projected upon it. I'm here to say, Libra people, Libra energy, it's actually very complex. There's a lot of versatility. There's a lot of creative prowess. There's a lot of sensuality. There's a lot of just like feel good energy. There's also, can be a lot of inner conflict and turmoil with Libra. So when Sun is in Libra, we are having this persistence when it comes to dealing with relationships. I hate to say it. Well, I don't hate to say it. I love to say it because you know what? That can be really good. So when Sun is in Libra, don't be surprised if your relationships, especially with that Scorpio Mars also happening the same time, your relationships can come to the forefront. You have to think a lot more deeply about how you react to the people in your life, how you perpetuate maybe certain unfavorable cycles, how you are breaking those cycles and making new ones. It's a really good time too to kind of reflect and think about any attachment, commitment, or intimacy issues you have. So if you find yourself being a little too codependent, it's good to check that. If you find yourself being a little cold, or you notice that when you start getting close to someone, you withdraw, you retreat. If you have a really intense fear of losing your independence or your autonomy when you're in the process of getting close to someone, that's something to think about. You don't want to sabotage your relationships because you are afraid of losing your freedom or you're afraid of getting hurt. That only only works to perpetuate really bad relationship dynamics, being completely honest, okay? So during Sun in Libra, it's a really good time to think about how you serve those around you, how others are serving you. You want to focus on reciprocation in relationships. If you're giving 80%, that other person only has room to give 20. So if you're in a relationship that doesn't feel fair or balanced, think about the role that you're playing in that relationship. Are you even letting that other person have any room or opportunity to give to you? Or do you just keep giving and giving and giving, and that other person just kind of comes to assume, well, they're just giving, so I don't have to do anything. You know what I mean? You have to set the standard. You have to kind of set the expectation for what you are worth and what you deserve. So Sun in Libra can do wonders for a lot of people's self-esteem, confidence, and just the ability to really understand what types of relationships they are prone to attracting. Now, aside from, and this doesn't just mean romance, okay? This is friendships, professional relationships, relationships with family, all of that, okay? Our relationship patterns persist regardless of the actual like label or status of that relationship. Now, aside from this, Sun in Libra is a really great time to connect with others point blank. It can also heighten creativity. It heightens appreciation for togetherness, for the arts. It does also allow for more sensory enjoyment. So you might be craving more comfort foods. You might be craving like a little more coziness. You know, it's a little similar to Taurus energy where there is this strong desire to just feel good. But Libra, you know, feels best when connecting with others. That's a way that those two signs kind of differ. Libra loves sharing the joys of life with other people. Okay. So finding ways to like make time for your friends and go plan a coffee date, right? Make time to go to the movies with the favorite people that you love. Make time, plan an intimate date with your partner, your lover, whatever. You know, if you have a positive relationship with your family, make time to see them. Like this is a really good time, Sun in Libra, to enjoy your interactions with others. You also never know. Libra energy is very generous. You never know who you're going to meet during this time. And I mean this in the best way possible. I don't mean this in like a selfish way, but like, you never know if someone you meet or connect with has something really valuable to offer you. Even if it's insight, it doesn't have to be a material gift, but sometimes it's insight. And the same is true in reverse. You never know who you're going to meet or who you're going to interact with that actually really needs, you know, to see you and needs to hear from you. And you might have something that someone else needs and vice versa. So you don't want to neglect the act of togetherness. Okay, let's get into horoscopes. So I'm going to go over each sign and what you can expect for the month of September. This does apply to rising signs. However, it also can apply to sun signs. So let's say you have a Capricorn rising and an Aries sun. If I were you, I would watch the Aries horoscope and the Capricorn horoscope, okay? Because sun and rising are both, in my opinion, at least very applicable here. Okay, that said, we are going to start with Aries. So for the month of September, for my Aries influenced babies out there, this is a great time to really connect with your body, okay? The new moon's occurring in your 6th house of health. The full moon is going to be occurring in your 12th house, which has a lot to do with spiritual enlightenment. So the month of September is really going to allow you to kind of come back home to self, really connect with self, tend to your health. You know, you really want to nurture like your immune system. You want to do what you can this month to kind of minimize any drama, minimize excess stress. This is also a great time to like get your ducks in a row and address certain lifestyle habits that maybe aren't really working for you anymore. Like this is a really good time to set new goals when it comes to your daily life and your body, your physical health. This can also bring new work-related changes. So if you have prominent Aries energy and you've been wanting to apply for a new job, this is a great month to do so, okay? It's awesome month to apply for a new job, or, you know, if you are just thinking of making some type of change professionally, this is kind of your sign to do so. Now, it is worth mentioning you are going to be having some 7th and 8th house activity this month, so your relationships become very important. You might still be kind of dealing with some type of fallout in a relationship or just some tension. And the month of September is going to give you that final kind of push, I guess, or just that opportunity to either make it work or go your separate ways. So if you are currently, for like August and stuff, kind of stewing in an unfavorable relationship circumstance, rest assured September will bring necessary closure and a necessary, or not necessary, but like necessary closure, and then like an opportunity to make amends, kiss and make up, or go your separate ways. Now we're going to talk about Taurus. So if you have Taurus sun or Taurus rising, this probably is going to resonate with you. So for Taurus babies out there, this new moon is going to going to take place in your 5th house of romance. So this is a really good month for like forming new romantic relationships or just assessing your romantic desires. Okay. Now the full moon is going to be occurring in your 11th house. So this is interesting. Okay. If you are someone who likes to go out, you like to meet new people, this could note forming a new romantic connection that, kind of comes on very unexpectedly. Like maybe you just go out with some friends, not expecting anything, and you meet someone. This could also note meeting someone at work or in a work-related environment. But your social life can kind of experience like an uptick in the month of September. Now, you are going to be having some activity in your 7th house as well when Mars does enter Scorpio. So this can increase the desire for intimacy and sensuality. Okay. So don't be surprised if your intimate life undergoes an increase. You're also probably going to be craving more feel-good experiences. So be a little mindful with that because you don't want to overindulge. You want to make sure you have balance. You want to make sure you have order. Right? You don't want to give into too much overconsumption, but I will say September can feel like a very indulgent time for you. It can feel very yummy. If you have Gemini rising or Gemini sun, here is your scope. So for Gemini babies out there, this full moon is going to take place in your 10th house. This notes some type of full circle moment or some type of completion when it comes to a work or professional objective. You might be kind of celebrating something really exciting. You might in some cases be... So on one hand, there's a versatility here. On one hand, this can note some type of celebration with full moon and 10th, where it's like, wow, you did it. You accomplished something that you set out to do. However, sometimes this could note in having a full circle moment, reaching the end. Reaching a point in your career where you want something more. You're at a point in your life now where you're like, okay, what's next? That's kind of the energies, like what's next? What comes now? So having full moon in the 10th can allow for a lot of brainstorming. There is a need to honor how far you've come, but you're kind of looking towards the future too. Now that said, new moon will be taking place in your 4th house, which has a lot to do with your intimate relationships. In some cases, these two, full and new moon can kind of interact in the sense where maybe you put your work, because you did accomplish a lot, on the side, and you start to take more time off. Maybe you start to tend to your family relationships a little bit more, your personal life. Like maybe work has to take a back seat to certain events occurring in your family life, okay? Or your personal life, maybe with you and your romantic partner, your children. But it might just be that some of this like ending energy or completion with work really is a matter of just kind of putting it to the side for now. And, your attention is being called to your more like personal, intimate life, if that makes sense. If you have Cancer rising or Cancer sun, this is your scope. So the full moon is going to be taking place in your 9th house. This is going to bring so many exciting revelations and spiritual points of clarity. So you might find that you are holding on to certain ideologies and beliefs that are only hurting you. They're not helping you progress. They're not honoring your power. They're keeping you small, or they're keeping you in a state of like victimization, if that makes sense. So having full moon in 9th can lead to amazing spiritual breakthroughs, amazing points of enlightenment, aha, light bulb moments. And this can apply too to some type of creative venture you want to embark upon. So sometimes what can happen here too is there's almost like this entrepreneurial or like authoritative type of energy where you have some type of spark or some type of like, key in the ignition room where you're like, oh, okay, like I actually kind of know what I want to do now. So your sense of personal purpose can become a theme here, essentially. Now that said, new moon will be in your 3rd house. This creates a desire for meeting new people, brand new relationships. In some cases, this can note a travel excursion. So you might take a trip during the month of September. You might be in the process of kind of assessing like what you want in life. So in the same way that you're kind of thinking about your personal purpose, where you live, where you are like geographically, might play a role in that as well. So you might be thinking about how you can better connect to your community, whether it be a community you hope to be a part of or a community that you're currently a part of. You are going to have some activity in your 3rd, 4th, and 5th house this month as well in September. So this can just allow you to meet new people. There can be some emotional stimulation. There's potential here for meeting a new romantic suitor or connecting, like getting closer to a pre-existing suitor in your life. I will say sometimes fertility can increase with some of the stuff you got going on. So you want to be very mindful when it comes to physical intimacy this month. If you have Leo sun or Leo rising, listen up. This is your scope for September. So full moon is going to take place in your 8th house. Okay, this is very intense. This brings forth major financial transformations. Okay, you might have some type of clarity when it comes to some financial organization that needs to take place. This could know, finally having enough money to pay off a debt, or finally having enough money to make a really big purchase. There might even be a little bit of fear associated with your finances during this time. Sometimes this fear has more to do with like scarcity mindset or just certain beliefs relating to your sense of worthiness. So maybe you recently got a promotion, but you're struggling feeling worthy, or you're struggling feeling like you are deserving of some of the good things happening to you. That's the way this can manifest. So it's not always like, oh, you got to shell out a bunch of money. Sometimes it's a matter of having a little more financial autonomy, but not knowing what to do with it because you're trapped in certain ways of, thought and thinking that are not very helpful and not compassionate and kind to yourself, right? So full moon in the 8th allows for a lot of healing when it comes to sense of self-worth, what you feel you deserve in life. And this is true too, kind of in a romantic sense as well, okay? So you can start to become a little more aware of some of the relationships that you might accept or tolerate that may or may not be treating you very well, right? So that can kind of come into theme. Now, that said, new moon will be taking place in your second house. This can lead to new financial opportunities, new financial breakthroughs. You might be in the process of applying for a new job, which with that full moon in 8th, it can be a little bit grueling, but you can expect some type of miracle to take place this month, okay? You can receive word on something you didn't really expect would work out in your favor because, again, there might be some self-esteem stuff you got to kind of work through that is keeping you from thinking that you're, doing good in life. You get what I'm kind of saying? Like, you're not giving yourself enough credit. So new moon in second can help you kind of, really come into self, nurture your self-esteem, and find a sense of security, especially following what might have been like a very grueling past few months. Okay. Now that said, you are going to have some activity in your second, third, and fourth house. So this is very much like finding security and stability in your daily life, in your home, and in your community. And this ties back to, again, nurturing your self-esteem. If you have Virgo rising or Virgo sun, this is your scope for September. So this full moon is going to take place in your 7th house of relationships. So this is an amazing transit period or astrological event because it does allow for closure and clarity in your relationships in life. Now, this can include a romantic relationship for sure. This can also include like a relationship with a friend or a coworker, like a boss, an employer. I will say, the energy here is a little wonky because the reality is you also have new moon taking place in your first house. This demands like a coming back to self. This demands self-care, self-love. It demands attention, focus, and priority on you and what works for you and what's good for you. That said, full moon in the 7th on one hand, if you are in a good relationship or you have a good support system, this full moon can really like emphasize that and show you just how much the people in your life love you. If you are in a good romantic relationship, this could lead to an engagement, a proposal, a pregnancy announcement, some type of like incredible news, essentially. Now, you are in a not good relationship, or especially in a relationship where you feel like you're giving and giving and giving and you're not receiving. This full moon can be a little painful because it can kind of force you to really look at that. It can force you to like really look at your relationships honestly, whether again, a romantic, a friendship, whatever. Look at them honestly and ask yourself, like, is this working for you? Is this helping you? Does this honor you? If no, this can know like a breakup or, a turning point in your relationship, like where the rubber meets the road. You know what I'm saying? Now, I will say aside from that, new moon in your first can really help you access your creativity, your spark, your ambition. It can also allow for more focus when it comes to like your appearance. You might start being a little more intentional about your wardrobe and how you project yourself outward. So you might start caring a little more about your public image, your appearance, things like that. You have some activity in your second house, which can definitely help you pay more mind to your confidence and your self-esteem, which might be why there is that increased focus on like really nurturing your self-esteem. If you have Libra sun or Libra rising, this is your scope for September. So for Libra babies out there, this full moon is going to take place in your 6th house. Okay. This is a bit of a tricky astrological event for you guys because the 6th house has so much to do with health and day-to-day affairs. It really represents like the most minute and kind of like boring aspects of life. That said, this can inspire a major change or a major need to at least address certain lifestyle habits that you have. And if you are a Libra rising or Libra sun, and you are in a toxic work environment, or your work environment is like not suitable for you, or it's not like doing anything for you, this can note like a breaking point. This could note a turning point where you quit, or you finally are, maybe have enough strength and courage to do something about the situation. So if you are in a not good work situation, rest assured September will give you an opportunity to kind of wiggle out of that, or at least find some type of resolve. Okay. Full moon in the 6th can also make you a lot more aware of your potential, your spiritual purpose. So anything in your life that is not in alignment with that or promoting that is probably going to have to go. Okay. So this can be a bit difficult. That said, new moon in Virgo is going to be in your 12th house. This is another one that's a little intense. So this can inspire new ideas, new beliefs, and new ideas specifically relating to like where you want to go in life and what you want to do next, especially when it comes to like your career and anything that really revolves around your sense of purpose and how you want to help those around you, how you want to service those around you. It also leads to amazing creative insights, okay? So if you are the more creative Libra type and you're working on a project or you have a project in mind, this is a great time to brainstorm. This is a great time to get your creative little ducks in a row and start organizing and making a tangible plan to bringing your creative ideas to life. If you have Scorpio rising or Scorpio sun, this is your scope for September. So this full moon is going to take place in your 5th house, which has a lot to do with romance, talents, skill, self-expression. You can anticipate some unexpected twists, okay, when it comes to your romantic life. So I will say fertility's increased. Be very mindful about your physical intimacy. You want to be safe if you're not trying to conceive. The energy here is ripe for a pregnancy announcement, essentially. The energy is also ripe for creating life of any sort when maybe you weren't really expecting it. This is true for like a creative project. This is true for stumbling into like a work opportunity you didn't anticipate. Like you might meet someone who has a new financial opportunity to offer you. Basically, you can find in the month of September that there is a new like source of creativity or life that takes form, if that makes sense. Like you can accidentally manifest something essentially, okay, with full moon in the 5th. So I will say this is actually kind of a nice full moon event for you guys, in my opinion. I will say romantically, because there can be unexpected twists, if you have been doubting your relationship or feeling suspicious or feeling like, I don't really know where this is going, you will find that out, okay? You will find out just how committed your partner is, or just how healthy and successful your relationship is or can be, etc. So you're going to receive clarity when it comes to a romantic relationship. Now, this new moon is in your 11th house. Okay. So this is another thing that can lead to unexpected plot twists professionally and when it comes to certain opportunities in your life. This can also note in some cases traveling somewhere new, and maybe that provides you with necessary enlightenment or new ideas about what you want to do creatively, professionally, but you can just kind of anticipate sort of like a very unique, unexpected, fun month. I'm not saying everything's going to be, fine and dandy and perfect. Again, you're susceptible to plot twists. But there's a lot of opportunity here for fun and excitement. If you have Sag rising or Sag sun, this is your scope for September. So this full moon is going to take place in your 4th house. There might be some type of goodbye that revolves around your family life or a very personal, intimate relationship. This doesn't necessarily mean something bad or scary is going to happen. Sometimes it's just a matter of letting go of maybe a certain dynamic in a relationship. Like maybe you and a parent have had a not so good relationship, but for whatever reason, you two have found a resolve, or you've reached a point of clarity that September allows for you to redefine your connection, redefine your relationship. There is this sense of forgiveness that has to be kind of projected on your family life and those around you. So if you've been holding a grudge, or if you've been feeling kind of burdened by feelings of resentment or bitterness, September is going to ask that you finally let that go and you kind of surrender to, the energy and just find some resolve within. There can be also like a reunion of sorts with your family or a loved one. So if you've been separated from a loved one, this month of September might give you an opportunity to finally see them. So there can be kind of like a bittersweet sensation when it comes to your personal life. Sometimes this could note too, like another way of like saying goodbye is like moving. Like if you're moving and you say goodbye to like your old place of residency, things like that. You're kind of moving on from the past, essentially. And that includes moving on from certain, relationships that might not be good for you, or just certain relationship dynamics that are coming to a change. Now, this new moon is going to be taking place in your 10th house, which 100% supports new professional opportunities, new professional relationships. So this is a great time to apply for a new job. It's a great time to negotiate and try to get like a promotion or a raise if you've been hoping for something like that. It's also a really great time to, like, if you are an entrepreneur or you have some business in the works and you want to launch said business, September might kind of give you that necessary push to do so. But this is a really good time to like make a name for yourself, receive some credit for how far you've come and all that you've done. You are going to have some activity in your 10th, 11th, and 12th house. Okay. So that said, there's a lot of spiritual enlightenment to be had during September for you, which is also why there can kind of be like this sense of surrendering, this need to forgive those around you, this need to have compassion. For my Cap Sun or Cap Rising babies, September is going to be a really interesting month for you. So this full moon is going to take place in your 3rd house. Okay. So this is a very interesting full moon. It will ask that you kind of say goodbye or let go of certain social relationships or a local environment that's no longer serving you. So if you're a part of like a certain community, or you're affiliated with like a certain ideology or a group that subscribes to certain beliefs, you might be saying goodbye. You might be letting that go. You might be heading towards something a little more something that allows you to have a little more authenticity or individuality. Sometimes this can even know like actually relocating and moving, going to a different space, community geographically, right? And this is especially true because new moon is going to be in your 9th house, which has a lot to do with travel, ideologies, beliefs. That said, with new moon in your 9th, this could note a desire for something new. This could note a need for new beliefs, a need for a new surrounding, like new environment, new connections. I will say if you're currently in school, this does bring forth kind of like a graduating type of energy, or like a full circle moment with your academic life, where for some of you, it could note wanting to go back to school. Like maybe you're hit with this revelation of like, you know what? I'm not done with my education. I want to do, I want to learn more. Maybe it's a matter of you already got a degree, but you're like, you know what? This isn't for me. I need a different degree. So your academic life can definitely come into theme during this time for some of my Cap babies, not all of them, but for some of them. But I will say this is a great time to kind of shake up your relationship with your community, your surroundings, making new friends. You're kind of entering a whole new era of life and self because you've kind of outgrown what you were recently doing, essentially. You're maturing, you're evolving, and your environment needs to align with that. Aquarius Sun, babies, and Aquarius Rising. Listen up. So September is going to be intense. I'm not going to lie. It's going to be intense for you guys. This full moon is taking place in your 2nd house. This can kind of shake up your sense of security and stability, okay? Now, something that can happen here is you can undergo a complete change to your priorities. You might find that certain things you were valuing and prioritizing in your life are not responding to you as you hoped, or are not benefiting you the way that you thought they would. So this could note letting go of certain priorities and values, kind of redirecting your goals in a new direction. Okay. Now, this full moon in the 2nd can also sometimes lead to some financial wishy-washiness. It might be that your paycheck is delayed, or something is just a little off financially. It will be corrected. So I don't want you to worry, but it could also note like an unexpected expense that you have to pay. There can be a need to get like clear and organized with your finances. Okay. Now, this new moon is going to take place in your 8th house. This is very, very, very intense. I think Aquarius babies out there are probably going to feel the month of September a little bit harder than a lot of other people, simply because of this new moon transit in the 8th house. So, did I say 8th or 10th? I meant to say 8th. I don't remember what I said, but it's 8th. So that said, new moon in the 8th, in alignment with some of that financial energy, This can note a desire for a new financial source of income. This can note having to kind of diversify your income. In some cases, this can note a financial return, like a tax return, for example. It could note some type of refund. It could note receiving money that you've been kind of waiting on. I will say new moon in the 8th can sometimes be a little challenging because it usually notes that in order to receive something new, you have to kind of let something go. There can be growing pains. There can be a learning curve here. It can be an awkward, uncomfortable point that, or period that requires some type of like personal adjustment. I will say miracles abound, and there can be saving graces at the last moment. So something can happen like at the 11th hour that completely saves you and makes the month of September like really worthwhile and very special and magical. So I don't want you to judge September based off of like maybe certain kind of tricky things that start to pop up. I want you to wait to see the whole month play out, because I do get the sense that you are more susceptible to miracles this month, and things will work out even if they work out in kind of an odd way. It's kind of like task failed successfully, if that makes sense. Like something might not go right, but it winds up being corrected in the end, and it winds up being like amazing anyway. Like, does that make sense? Like, it's just a miraculous time for you guys. You do have to remain open-minded though, okay? You have to remain open. You're undergoing a lot of evolution and change. You're naturally going to be kind of like molting during this month. And part of it too is like, it's not always a material difficulty you're dealing with, but sometimes psychological, because your sense of security does come into play here. The more you resist change this month, the harder the month can be, essentially, okay? So you need to just be flexible and open-minded, which I know can be kind of hard for my Aquarius babies out there, but you got to do it. For my Pisces sun, Pisces rising babies, September is going to be, in my opinion, a very powerful and in a lot of ways good month for you. So this full moon is taking place in your first house. This can be intense, I'm not going to lie. It does require some type of like shedding, moving on from the past, addressing certain parts of yourself that you've been maybe clinging on to or associating with a little too hard that you don't need to be associating with. It's kind of like you just want to make sure you're not putting labels on yourself, because sometimes labels keep us trapped in a certain like point in time. And you just want to allow yourself and give yourself the grace to be more flexible and adaptable, which is a very like enlightened and high powerful form of expression for Pisces people out there. So stay open-minded and stay flexible this month. You are probably going to be tasked with addressing some lifestyle habits that need to change, and you're going to be kind of pushed out of your comfort zone in some ways, but let me clarify why. So new moon is going to take place in your 7th house of relationships. This is where some of that need to make certain adjustments and changes comes into play. You are an increased potential for meeting a new partner if you're single, entering a brand new romantic relationship, or undergoing a major development in a pre-existing romantic relationship. And this development or this new relationship might demand that you address some things in yourself in order to be ready for that, in order to be ready for the increase in romanticism and generosity and affection. And that said, you are more susceptible to receiving help and assistance from others during the month of September. People might be a lot more generous to you. People might be gifting you things. There is this kind of feeling like you're being honored or you're being seen, or order and justice and fairness is being restored. It's not necessarily going to take place without you doing your part and working on yourself and coming to terms with ways that you might have perpetuated unfair treatment to your own self, though. So like you need to do some work too. You got to meet the universe halfway, if that makes sense. But with new moon in the 7th, it's a great time for connecting with other people. It's a great time for like deepening your connection to self and thinking about like what you really get out of your relationships. I will say, if you are coming on like the tail end of a really bad breakup, or if you recently underwent a bad breakup within the last like year and a half, this can bring really good closure and clarity for you. And again, there is potential for a brand new relationship to take hold. Okay, so those are the scopes for all 12 signs. Don't forget, you can apply that to your sun sign and your rising sign. Leave me a comment letting me know what you think of September. Are you excited? Like, what do you have going on? Let's dish. I love to read the comments. Do not forget to like and subscribe as well. I appreciate it so much. And I also have my website in the description, again, for those of you who would like to book a reading with me. And do not forget to sign up for my email list so you can receive exclusive discounts, promotions, and astrological tidbits. Thank you so much for watching my video. Mwah, mwah, mwah.